Hello, oh wait, I'm not there yet. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, here we go. We are recording. Oh, look, I'm in focus. It's continuing to focus. It should stay in focus this time. Woo. I'm Willhouse, like Millhouse, but Willhouse. And you might notice I actually did a little bit of work here. My partner and I have been switching things around so I would actually have like more of the standard vinyl community kind of video backdrop and whatnot. And otherwise, it's just nice to actually have organized discs. Like I've been collecting these things for 30 years. I don't have nearly as many records as most people seem to after a length of time, but I don't care. I love them all. And the ones I don't love aren't even in this room right now. And well, here's the deal. Like up here, we got, it's like pop, rock, soul, all the standard sort of stuff. And this cubby, as well as this cubby, and this cubby, and that cubby, and then down in that cubby. And then after that, we go over towards the right. Over here, this is jazz discs. And in this littler section right in here, those are jazz compilations, because with jazz records, sometimes you just get the ones that are like, oh, recording session from 1938 or something, and nobody else knows how great they are, so they're like $5. And those are my bread and butter. I freaking love those things. And then over here behind the corner of my chair and my boob is, this is all like the electronica and experimental section. And as we go further down past my pajamas, here is the country cubby right in here, which is of course not nearly so big as a lot of others. Next to that is the raunchy cubby, risque stuff is in there. Next to that, here we have soundtracks. I posted a photo of this to Facebook. One guy was like, you need more raunchy and more soundtracks. And I kind of agree with that. They're actually pretty well represented with raunchy. I don't really play those often. But over here, soundtracks, yeah, soundtracks are fun. I need more of those. And then this little section here, next to the soundtracks, behind my knee, and once again behind my boob, I guess, is some more collections, various artists kind of stuff, but a little bit more, ethnographic or like world music if you want to use that, whatever. That's that. And then over way down in the corner, that's totally in shadow, like all the way back down there. That is where the kid records go. Yeah, that's about it. And if you take a look over there, like towards the top, I got some cool stuff. Like up on display over yonder is my little collection of records with cover art by Jim Flora, who was stunning and an awesome mid-century modern kind of artist. You can't just buy Jim Flora almost anything. So yeah, that's kind of my art collection out there since it's Jim Flora, and he's such a badass, did so many good things. And here is what I use to take my records to work, which is of course where I listen to them most of the time. And then next to that are new records, and then the snazzy backdrop thing that I spent $40 on eBay, the Disco Turntable, my kind of one and only picture disc I got from my brother when he sort of ditched his collection. Yeah, if there's any big R.E.M. fans out there, if you can somehow prove to me how deserving you are of an original document record store poster, let me know, and maybe I will send you one of these things. I got a couple of them. Like the design, I think if I recall correctly, is different from front to back. So I got a whole bunch of them at a Milwaukee record store that was like doing a warehouse sale like 20 years ago, and they've just been rolled up ever since. Like the weird wide, long, short format. So yeah, framing them is a little bit weirder. 45s are there. We got my 78s behind the R.E.M. thing, and I thought we might do one of those like I grab miscellaneous records and talk about the miscellaneous records, because that is a fun thing that I like to watch on the YouTube. Let's see, I'm going to do a cut here. Okay, so I'm going to look at you, camera's focusing on me. I'm not going to look over here, and I'm just going to pick out something. First one, oh, this is one of my very first Vinyl Me Please records, Black Nasty, Talking to the People. It is just a good, groovy 70s record, really. I haven't listened to it enough to know all the songs that I like the most on it, but it's just one of those groovy records that you put on, and it's very enjoyable front to back. Kind of like a time capsule of the 70s or whatever, but just good Black American music. So yeah, good American music right here, Black Nasty. Okay, now we go over here to section number 2, still like pop rock stuff. We got here Josephine Foster, No Harm Done. It's from a couple of years ago. It's one of my very favorite covers ever. I don't think I've talked about this before. It's one of the very few records that I have over here that has not been freshly cleaned since it's pretty new. But yeah, if you look here, it's got another cute little sheepity sheep on the label. And Josephine Foster, she's pretty unique. A little bit of like a freak folk vibe with her songs. If I recall correctly, she's kind of prolific and has done a lot of stuff over the years. She's from like Colorado or something like that, and did a stint in Chicago where she started collaborating, or at least met and hung out with my old pal Matthew Schneider of Moon Brothers, Moon Bros. That was the connection there. So I bought this one to really get the Jofo vibes and have it on proper vinyl for good listening. And because the freaking adorable cover on this one. And yeah, it's with Josephine Foster's voice is a little bit like, you can like feel in it like an old-timey country influence. It's not necessarily old-timey country music, but it's there. And it's really, really good. And if, let's see, if I recall correctly, Matt plays guitar on this thing too. Yeah, featuring Matthew Schneider, co-produced with Andrea Tokic or something like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, Jofo, good record, cool record, fun one to have. And I think, moving on, I know which I would like to talk about, which I think is right in the middle, but we'll go for something that is right here, whatever that is. Oh, here we are, Moon Brothers. These stars, this is the one that I don't like as much as the one that I showed in my first video, I think it was. This one's from 2016 or something like that. It's on Western vinyl, I believe, again. This one is definitely a little bit more, to me it feels a little bit more like just Matt and his guitar, even though there is a band involved. But yeah, these are actually really good, together. It's a nice little pair of discs. Like it even sort of seems that way. Looking at the cover art, I think. Yes, it does. Anyway, the deal with Moon Brothers is it's a little bit freak folk stuff. I just knew Matt so well for so long. Dad. I listened to this and it's just like getting to hear whatever cool arty stuff my old good friend has been thinking about for like the last few years. And it's really, really, really awesome times. Organic guitar, lil band. Yeah, it's just like guitar string band kind of thing. But definitely modern. With all the appropriate old-timey influence, but definitely not old-timey music. You can tell it was not written 100 years ago, but that is kind of the instrumentation that's on here. However, on the newer records, you don't know exactly what you're going to get with Matt all the time. A lot of improvisation involved with this guy's stuff, and I love all this stuff, always have. Moving to the fourth section. Rock, pop, soul, R&B, etc. Oh! This is one of my recent purchases, one of my 12-inch singles, the Rolling Stones Miss You disco version. That's exactly what it is, Rolling Stones Miss You, the disco version. 8 minutes 36 seconds of awesome Miss You by the Rolling Stones. It didn't come with the original sleeve on it, so you don't need to you don't know anything more about this. It is awesome and really great to listen to. Sounds perfect. Because once again, 12-inch singles, man. Awesome audio coming off of these things. All the time, always. Unless you get a really crappy old DJ copy, those are still pretty bad, but good times. Next, we are going towards the bottom. Oh, M. Ward. If you know She and Him, he's the him, and super prolific songwriter. He started out, I can't even remember what band he was in at this time, but started out like late 90s, early 2000s, and he had a record called Transfiguration of Vincent that I was a big fan of, and this one I don't like nearly as much. I've kind of outgrown M. Ward a little bit, but still cool atmospheric stuff, a little bit of a retro dirt road kind of vibe with M. Ward stuff. He just has that sort of voice and that sort of imagery, and that's M. Ward. I don't think any of these things are special looks wise, but it's M. Ward record. It's certainly a nice one to have in your collection. Break these things out every 5-10 years, and it's interesting always. So I'm not sure if this one's a keeper, but what is this even called? I don't even remember. Transistor Radio. M. Ward's Transistor Radio is this record. Not a favorite of mine, but a random pick, a pretty decent one. Next up, jazz. Oh, Quintet. This was recorded in Toronto at the Jazz at Massey Hall. If you're a big Mingus fan, you know this record. Yeah, Charlie Chan, of course, is Charlie Parker, and you got Dizzy Gillespie, Bud Powell, Max Roach on drums. Max Roach is pretty much my favorite drummer of all time. And then of course, Charlie, or Charles Mingus on bass. They played this show, I think a few nights. They played a multi-night gig at Massey Hall in Toronto. It's just one of these shows that like all the jazz critics at the time just like splooged over. They loved it. And this one's on Debut Records, which was the Charles Mingus record label. It's got that Salt Peanuts song on there. Salt peanuts, salt peanuts. Penultimate Derivatives bebop song. Salt peanuts, and a whole bunch of other. One of the very first things you read in one of the very first paragraphs is, "A strange god, a creature wanting and suggesting self-destruction." What the hell? That doesn't sound like at all like a description of this record. It's just a cool old jazz set. When I was at the Jazz Museum in Kansas City a few years ago, they had the saxophone that Charlie Parker used on this record, and I can't remember what the brand is on it, but it's one of these weird sort of cheapy ones, and it's kind of an experimental instrument in that a whole bunch of it is made out of plastic. And it sounds like Charlie Parker's alto tone, but yeah, a whole bunch of the saxophone is made out of plastic. It's really cool. I took a whole bunch of photos of it. I'm sure I will post them here because, yeah, I saw Charlie Parker's awesome half plastic saxophone, and I feel like that makes me cool. Yeah, so here you go. Half plastic saxophone. James P. Johnson, piano solos, Fats and Me. Of course, that is a reference to Fats Waller. Is just one of these those piano players who have like the really rollicking, bouncy left hand, the boogie woogie stuff. This is that kind of thing. Oh yeah, I love this one is from MCA Records, but I just love the label on this guy. It's an almost European looking label. I don't think I've ever seen it on any other record, but it's got this weird like geometric thing going on, and I totally dig this label. It's just solo piano stuff from 44. It of course does not sound very good because it's 1944 recording technology, but it's good stuff. Here, let's see. I guess it's not all solo entirely. You know, let's see. James P. Johnson piano solo, accompanied by Eddie Doherty. I think Doherty is usually how you say it. Eddie Doherty on drums on at least a few tracks. I haven't listened to this one enough to know. Oh, it's got Ain't Misbehaving, of course, a standard. Honeysuckle Rose is kind of a standard too. I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter. Oh, if I could be with you for an hour. If I could be with you. Awesome song. I know it by a different artist. But Kitty Lester? No, I don't think it's Kitty Lester. Anyway, Jazz Heritage Volume 42. They printed a lot of these things. It's cool old music, and these things are almost always really cheap. $3, but I bought this like 20 years ago too, so I'm sure it's a little pricier nowadays.
Now we are going towards electronica, experimental interestingness.
Oh, Lord of the Rings. This one could kind of go into like the pop rock kind of thing. I've been meaning to talk about this record. It's by Bo Hansen, who's the Swedish guy, and he was actually doing really well in London and around Europe in the late 60s, and apparently when Jimi Hendrix was in London, he caught a gig that Bo Hansen was playing, and freaking loved it. So he and Bo Hansen were buddies after that, and I think Hendrix might have even asked him to join the band of Gypsies, or I'm pretty sure that Hendrix asked Bo Hansen to play with him. He was an organ player. But that didn't happen because Bo Hansen wanted to do this. The Lord of the Rings. Music inspired by The Lord of the Rings. It's all instrumental and it's extraordinarily moody. I was gonna like insert this into my spooky music mentions. And also I wanted to talk about this because this is a record that I would have loved to talk with my uncle about. My uncle Terry died at the beginning of October last year. It was one of the reasons why I haven't done another video or two. Like he's the first of like the generation in my family that came before mine to pass away, and hit me pretty hard because at one point he had given me some of his records to digitize years ago, and I actually recorded them or whatever because I had a nice setup back then for doing that particular process. And then I just didn't get him the stuff. I never sent my Uncle Terry his records on digital or whatever. It turned out like there was a fire at his house and he lost his entire record collection, which is one of the most horrible things that anybody could ever hear who was a fan of vinyl. But I still had like 5 or 6 of his records, so I was able to give those back to him, which was pretty cool. And I had some Stanley Clarke records as well that I wasn't a big fan of. Of course, they're all on Blue Note. They're probably really valuable now, but I gave them to him as well. But I would have loved to talk to him about this. He was a big fan of fantasy. He was like an OG Lord of the Rings guy, and he probably had a copy of this at some point. It's on the famous Charisma label, which has the Mad Hatter on it. I like this label a lot. It's a cool looking label. But yeah, it's organ and it's super moody and it's really dynamic. And one of the best things I could say about this record is that when the bongos come in is when it gets really awesome. Bo Hansen, when the bongos come in, it gets really awesome. So anyway, I was talking about him and Jimi Hendrix. The deal is that he was inspired by the Lord of the Rings when he read it to do this album that's all about, yeah, there it is, Bo Hansen, the Lord of the Rings. If you're a really big Lord of the Rings fan, you supposedly, you know the scenes in the story when they happen on the record. I'm not that big of a Lord of the Rings fan. I'm not a fantasy guy. It's just cool. It's really, really cool. He isolated himself on a Swedish island, like somewhere like kind of by Stockholm or something like that. He bought this little house or rented it and set up his synthesizers and his organ and invited some buddies over. There's like guitar and bass and stuff on it. So it's a cool late 60s, early 70s kind of vibe. It's just a great record. It's not a very expensive record. Might be getting a little pricey now since, I don't know, they're all old. I'm not sure how many repressings have been done of this. There certainly should be some because it is that cool. Anyway, music inspired by Lord of the Rings. I really miss you, Uncle Terry. I'll put that out into the ethers if any of my cousins are watching this now. I hope. Yeah, I need you to know that I still think about the guy, right? I'm not forgetting about my Uncle Terry. He was kind of a spitfire. But yeah, it took me a long time to really get to understand Uncle Terry. And I miss him. Something here. The other Chet Atkins. This one is RCA Victor. I think most of the like the 60s and 70s Chet Atkins records came out on RCA. They just had a contract or something like that. But Chet Atkins, of course, master guitarist and Nashville producer and yeah, just legendary musician of the, I think, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Like he's one of those people. And this is him kind of doing like a little bit more classical guitar. Of course, it's original pressing kind of thing and nothing too special. Got the cool little illustration of him and his hands. Chet and his hands on the back of this. The other Chet Atkins. A fine record deserves the finest phonograph, an RCA Victor stereo high fidelity Victrola, which is kind of a cool little promo thing they got going there. Let's see if it'll actually focus. Can you focus here, camera?
You should be focusing on my face.
I don't see. Oh, there we go. See? Yeah, cool old Victrola ad. Anyway, enough of my pores. This is Chet Atkins. Cool record. This is one of these great background records. Like I'll take the story and put it on there, and for the next like 45 minutes, all is good. It's not necessarily a feel-good record. It's just, it puts my brain where I want my brain to be. Like it makes me think good things, not necessarily happy things, but it makes my brain think good things. The other Chet Atkins. All right, let's see if we got any. Siboni. I know that one because Martin Denny did it. Oh, Delicado. I can't say. Streets of Laredo. That was kind of famous. Begin to Begin is a super standard. Yeah, it's him with, I think, just primarily acoustic classical style guitar, the wider neck and whatnot. Good record. Losing my breath. I used to be a really skinny guy, and now being a fat guy, it's such a weird transition, man. Anyway, we're going to next to country. Oh, we got the raunchy section here, so I gotta be careful. We're picking up this one, and no, I think we're safe. It does not have the titties on there. This one is David Rose and his orchestra play The Stripper. I think you can get the vibe of that little section. It's kind of like stag party music, I guess. And my partners are really into like modern burlesque and vintage burlesque. And I actually did some academic work on it and got to talk to some like cool burlesque artists. But that's the kind of cool person my partner is. And this one is on MGM, like, so you can see that maybe. Anyway, yeah, it's another song. David Rose and his orchestra play The Stripper and other fun songs for the family. It's The Stripper. You should know the song. It, like all the cheesy movies where like some cartoon character peels down to their garters or something like that. It's the song we placed there. But it's got other standards. Night Train, which is James Brown's cut, is just the all-time best. What is this thing called? Love is an amazing one that Oscar Peterson's trio and Nat King Cole's trio did really good versions of. Mood Indigo, Mangus did a great version of that one. Don't know a band from Boston. St. James Infirmary sounds a little bit familiar. Black Italian Fantasy, I think that's Duke Ellington. Harlem Nocturne, the Viscounts or the Viscounts, however you're supposed to say that. Harlem Nocturne's an awesome song. I think I might take this to work and play it tomorrow, because that's just a lot of good songs, man. A lot of good songs in this one. Raunchy records are done. Okay.
After the raunch section is...
Oh, it's soundtracks. Let's go for soundtrack.
I kind of want to pick the one on the end because I loved it so much, but I'll pick one in the middle.
Oh, Mission Impossible soundtrack. It's by Lalo Schifrin, or perhaps Lalo Schifrin. I don't know. He's a Frenchy guy, so pronounce his name how you will. But it's, of course, the Mission Impossible theme is one of those songs that will just never die and never should die, because it's truly a good tune. It's on Dot Records, which I like a lot. Just vintage label. Feels like 50s when you're looking at that label, but it's late 60s, I presume. So Lalo Schifrin is a very, very highly respected film composer, and for good reason. He did lots of interesting stuff with time signatures and cool instrumentation. And yeah, there he is on the top, of course. And then the actors, Martin Landau. And that's all I'm going to say, man. Martin freaking Landau. Badass. He played Bela Lugosi in the Tim Burton Ed Wood movie. Anyway, Lalo Schifrin was kind of the same. Like, he just started doing interesting music and always did interesting music. So if you come across any soundtrack by Lalo Schifrin, probably worthy. If it's cheap enough, just buy it. Simple as that.
After soundtracks, we've got miscellaneous compilations, and I think I know where the one I want to talk about is here, so I'm no, never mind.
It's Dark Was the Night. This is one of those red and blue records that was raising money for, I believe, HIV research. Back in ye olde days of, what, this was 2009. No, what was this? Yeah, it's a Red Hot compilation, put out by 4AD. It's a benefit record, if I recall correctly, but it's a great compilation. Like Dirty Projectors and David Byrne. The best one here is The Books, featuring Jose Gonzalez cello song. It's the Nick Drake song. Is one of those songs that, like, nobody should try to play it because it's just such an amazing song, and the original version is kind of untoppable. The Books with Jose Gonzalez managed to cover Nick Drake's cello song and have it be pretty much just as good as Nick Drake's original. And this, I believe, was the first place where it was released. And then, yeah, it's just other cool stuff like Feist and Ben Gibbard, Bon Iver, The Nationals on there, Kronos Quartet, Anoni, I believe, is on here as well, when they were still called Anthony. I don't know, is Anthony a dead name now? Should we even say that anymore? Anoni, I believe, is on here with somebody. Blah, 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 blah. Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, which, if Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings are involved, and you can afford the purchase, do it. End of story. Period. Nextly.
After that section, let's start with our section. We got kids section now, so...
Oh, wait, no. I guess I have a classical section along with the kids section. This is Eric Satie and his friend Darius Milhaud. However you say it. Frenchies, more Frenchies. Frenchies have such hard to pronounce names, man. Frenchies and their names. It's a difficult thing for me. It's fun. I like trying to pronounce French names. Anyway, one of the biggest reasons why I bought this record is obviously because the cover is so amazing. Secondly is that I like Eric Satie. Pensive stuff. Oh, well, anyway, this is Bernard Herrmann. There's another film conductor, very famous guy. He did the score for The Day the Earth Stood Still, featuring all those super amazing electronic instruments, theremin and whatnot. And the London Festival Players, so it's the orchestra overdubs. And this is one of these records. I believe it is quadraphonic, but the deal is that it's a classical record, and it has like all the audio dynamic range you could ever want, like super quiet and super loud stuff, and I have tinnitus, so this is one of these records where I put it on and I can hear the loud stuff, and that's just fine, but like the bottom third of the volume level on this thing is just nothing to me. All I hear is the and it's just extraordinarily disappointing every time I play any classical record. Yeah, it sucks. So that's why this one's kind of like just thrown away in the corner there, is that I can only hear maybe 2/3 of it. Anyway, there's something I wanted to bring up. the vinyl community. I know a lot of us we are disabled with our hearing. So how does that affect your listening experience, and how does it affect how you enjoy your music? Like most of the time I'm just fine with all the stuff. Like music is one of the things that makes me not hear all the ringing in my ears. So I love it. But yeah, I'm extraordinarily disabled when it comes to classical music with all those really soft passages. My partner's disabled. Disability activism and disability politics is very important to me. And yeah, feel free to comment and make as many videos as you want talking about like what kind of disabilities you have and how they affect you, especially in like what kind of adaptation you need as far as listening to music goes, as far as just living life goes. The normies need to know more about the kind of accommodations that disabled people like just require in order to live their lives, like basic things that everybody else can do without issue. We have more problems with. It's not necessarily just a hearing issue with me. I'm a major depressive as well, and of course, yeah, like anxiety goes kind of hand in hand with that in many situations, and I have a very long history. So yeah, mental health is my thing. Like, yeah. And like I said, my partner is physically disabled. We're all high risk for COVID. Like all of my blubber means that I still have to watch out for that stuff. Being in middle age and not healthy enough to, yeah, like every time I go outside might be a life-threatening experience. So mask up, stay safe everybody. And yeah, if you are one of the disabled folks out there, more power to you. I hope you are having a great day. And I hope you have very many great days immediately ahead of you.